Welcome to the Strap and Link podcast, where we cover brands from their inception to their latest release.
It's the Montress
Like I
Tudor.
said, better movement, spring drive
So,
potentially, Rolex Oyster Perpetual.
Out of their Super Ocean heritage. Now you see this kind of renaissance of Tudor. Finally, in 2016, they achieved the spring drive with an 8-day power release. The podcast for watch lovers by watch lovers. New episodes every first and third Monday of the month.
So, welcome back to the Strap and Link podcast, everybody. Brett and David here with you again, as always. What's up, man? It's
We're
been
a
few
little more
weeks.
consistent. Yeah, only a couple weeks this time, maybe a month. We're actually recording this right before we release it in a day or so. So we're excited to be back and just talk some watch stuff and some normal life stuff and see how you guys like it.
Yeah. We got a release in a couple of days, so a little bit different because, normally we're like several weeks in advance, and it's kind of like speculative stuff sometimes when there's like new watches that are coming out. So
Yeah.
sometimes we're trying to figure that out, but yeah, we just figured let's release it a little bit closer so that we can talk about things kind of as they happen and
Yep.
in real time. So with that in mind, I think one of the first things that I wanted to bring up today on the show was the new Monta Noble variation. So if you're new to the show and you're unfamiliar with Monta, they're a micro brand. And actually, let me pause before I go any further. Apologies. I'm like dealing with a cold, getting over it. So if I sound pretty shitty tonight,
He's
today's
not this bored of the podcast.
no.
We promise. He's excited. We're so
Um,
excited that we're doing it while he's sick. So yeah.
the monotoneness is going to be coming across for sure. So Monta is a micro brand, and we met them through kind of like a local watch group,
Mm-hmm.
and
God, going on what, almost 2 years ago, year and a half ago now.
yeah, a year and
And
a half ago, 2 years, a
yeah,
watch
we
group
had
that
yeah.
shan't be named, that I refuse to name. If anyone's got questions about that, though, hit us up because we would love to tell that story. Um,
Yeah.
And yeah, like, so I bought a Monta. I bought a pink dial Noble,
Mm-hmm.
and most recently they've come out with a watch called the Ocean King. So they've released like the latest version of that. If
Yep.
you are familiar with the show, then you've heard us talk about Monta at length when we have an episode on Monta where the two co-owners actually came onto the show.
Yep.
So that kind of catches us up, and they just released a new model to their collection, and it's called the Monta Noble Voyager,
Yep.
and it is effectively just the Noble with a redesigned rehat that
Yeah. GMT
includes
function.
that
Yeah.
includes a 24-hour scale, in the typical Monta sort of fashion that it's every other hour. So
Mm-hmm.
it includes that, and then um, the GMT hand itself is a little bit different than like what most
Yeah.
companies do. It's a skeletonized version of the
How
local
did you
hour
like that,
hand.
Brett? Yeah. What did you think about the skeleton? I know Justin was on the live. I was able to actually catch the tail end of it, and I think they have it posted on the Monta Instagram. But he was, I mean, just talking up that skeleton GMT hand. I don't know if I really love it. I just like a good GMT hand with a different color that really pops, but is
Yeah,
full. A skeleton GMT. I don't want to say looks cheaper to me. It doesn't have that pop that I look for in a GMT hand. Even we talked about the new Rolex GMT that came out this year, but we did like the turquoise green 24-hour hand that they had. That so. I like something that's a little more full, but I'm intrigued to hear what you think about it.
um, yeah. I didn't really like it. I mean, it's I don't know. It's kind of like a cop out design to me. I mean, like the entire watch, and we can get into that kind of as we go. But yeah, to just focus on the hour hand, it did seem a little bit strange to me to have, that skeletonized version of it. I mean, if you're like a real, OCD type of person and you want a very uniform look to your watches, then I think this is like it's like an orgasmic designed watch for you.
hmm
orgasmically experience.
Yeah.
Um,
If you love the Noble
and
and you've always wanted a GMT function, then I mean this
yeah,
is it.
but
I just
but
I
at the
don't
same time, it's like it's boring. I mean, we got the same colors. I mean, I guess there's a green, but they do the green in a different model. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
and
I do like the color of the green. It is very, I mean, it's
when
I
they're
don't know. I don't agree with them doing a Noble right now. I think they
doing
really I
another
mean,
GMT,
yeah. Yeah.
both of those things.
Yeah.
Like we've had so many nobles because all the limited editions, and they have
So
two
many.
different
Yeah.
lineups of GMT only watches: the Atlas, I believe,
Yeah.
and the SkyQuest. Those are two full GMT. So now to add a GMT into one of the three-hander collections, it's like everybody just wanted a blue Ocean King.
That's what I was
Like
waiting to say. I was like, I just want
every
a freaking blue Ocean King. For the love of God, if you want me to buy a watch from them, please make a blue Ocean King. Everybody on every comment when they're going on live. It's funny. It sounds like we're ragging the guys because we do like Monta and very nice owners, and we'd love to have him back on the show and kind of talk about some of these things. But every time we go on the live and I look at the comments, of course, there are a lot of comments in the live that are, "Hey, we like it, beautiful watch, blah blah blah." But there's always 5 or 6 people and out of a live that has 50 people watching, so it's not like hundreds of thousands, but 5 or 6 people are, hey, when is the blue Ocean King coming out? When is the blue Ocean King coming out? And they seem to just avoid that question on live because I know Justin and Mike, I think's his name.
Michael, yeah,
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, what are some questions that the live's asking?" And he will just never bring up the
never.
blue Ocean King. They're like, "Oh, they're just really saying they love the green dial." Which they
Uh,
are, but they will not talk about the blue Ocean King. I'm like, that is what, for the love of God, what everybody wants. I've always spoke about it on this podcast. We need a blue diver watch that's not with white gold and $40,000 that Rolex has. I mean, shoot, the Ocean King, the black one, looks very similar to a Rolex sub. If you could just give me a blue Ocean King that is in that $2,000 range, that would be something I would heavily think about investing in because I just want a solid blue, something like the Smurf from Rolex, but without $40,000 because it's a white sub. Just give me a simple, economical fix of a blue diver watch, and I would be the happiest man on the earth. But for
yeah.
some reason, these guys refuse to do it.
Well, and it's weird too because they have a very royal flat blue design on, I think it's the Monta Atlas now. They
Yeah,
had, I think that was a limited run.
it was a pretty
And then they
watch,
also,
but yeah,
yeah, well, I actually really love that watch. And then
yeah.
they had not had, they still have a full time staple in the Noble collection itself already is that degradé blue
Which they did
variation.
make that in a GMT form as well.
Yep.
So you
So,
have the degradé
yep.
blue and a emerald
Yep.
green is what they
So
called
they've
it.
got two different types of blues. They're using multiple blues in one of the Noble lineups, and then they've got the Ocean King with a black dial. And they used to make a blue dial Ocean King. I think also it was a more limited run. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was a
It
limited
was like the
edition, but
Generation 1 Ocean King
there,
they made
yes,
they made a black and blue,
there
yep.
is a guy in one of the Facebook Monta groups that is looking for one of those watches,
Yeah.
and he put like a in search of post up, and it is a freaking sexy looking watch. It's all brushed. The
Oh, yeah.
entire watch is brushed. Bracelet, lugs, case, the
I think I
bezel,
know the post
and
you're talking about too, because I think a lot of people thought he was selling one, and they're like, "I want it, I want it, I want it."
yes,
So I was
probably
like, that just shows the demand, and yeah. I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's
If
an
you can put a
awesome watch,
modern look
dude.
to that, I mean, again, I like the black Ocean King. I think it obviously have a black sub, so I just would never get that watch. But if you make that and you update the blue to look like that, that would again be something I think I would seriously think about getting, and I think a lot of people would as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's
what
pretty frustrating. It's pretty
yeah.
frustrating for sure. I mean,
So
it seemed lazy.
the other frustrating thing from Monta that we can talk about that I know more and more people are really talking about is just the price point of some of these watches as well. I mean, we get it. The world's, it's a lot more expensive than it was a few years ago. So prices are just continually going up on watches and different things. And Monta's not immune to that. But I mean, it's just, I remember 2 years ago when we were talking about, limited edition Montas, you're in the 1800 range. This watch after pre-order, if you pre-order it in the next few weeks, I believe it's 2150, so 2150. But
Wait, what
after the
watch?
pre, this
The
this Noble
oh
GMT.
oh the Voyager.
Yeah, the Voyager is
Oh,
2150 pre-order, and then after pre-order, which they I believe said in that live lasts about 6-ish weeks, they're going up to $2,400 for this Monta Noble.
nah, fam.
And I was like, that just seems high to me. But so I went and did a little bit of research for you guys so you don't have to. A Longines Hydra Conquest GMT is $2,800. So you're talking $400 more for a Longines. And then the Zulu time is 3,100. So you're talking, $600 more or so. So you're in the hundreds of dollars away from a Longines, which everybody knows Longines. I know our listeners love Longines, probably the
Yeah,
most liked watch behind Rolex for our listeners. And so I mean, you're really pushing the numbers of those guys. And again, I don't want to put this on Monta for being greedy, because it might not be. It might just be, I mean, they're a smaller company. It's more expensive to, only make a certain number of these watches versus, a company like Longines that makes thousands of more of the same watch. But I mean, at some point, you just got to understand, like, hey, we've got to keep our price bracket in a certain bracket, or we're going to be pushing the big guys. And I think in the long run, that could lose sales.
yeah. Well, there's another point to this I think that I wanted to bring up as well, and I said it right before you discussed that about this new Voyager being a lazy like
Hmm.
iteration and a lazy design. And so I think those 2 points together are really interesting because like they're both true, right? The price of these watches are just creeping up and up and up, and I could probably see a world where that's because Monta is more of a micro, or not more, but because Monta is the micro brand. Like if we're talking about Monta and Longines, right? We're talking about those two watches being
Yeah.
$400 apart. Monta not ordering, they're not, buying as many blocks and cases and movements, right, as
Yeah.
Longines would. So it could be a little bit more expensive per watch, but for the price to be getting that close, and then you also take a look at what Monta are actually iterating on. I mean, they basically have the same two cases and the same bracelet for every single watch in their entire catalog. The bracelet
Hmm.
is the only variation of that is that the new Ocean King, prior to this, well, I guess prior to this Ocean King there was no current Ocean King. It was on like a hiatus for a couple of years. So the Ocean King model, the dive watch, because it has additional micro slot adjustments, it's a little bit longer.
Hmm.
Every other watch in their catalog has the same bracelet, and I'm pretty sure that all of the Noble, the Atlas, and what's the other one? There's this,
Triumph.
yes, the Triumph. I'm pretty certain that the Noble, Atlas, and Triumph cases are all three the same, and then the Ocean King and the Sky Quest case are the same.
Yeah. What
So, I
really
mean,
just scares me.
they're just reusing, like, they're just mixing
Yeah.
and matching pieces. I mean, I know that
Yeah.
that's, like, hyperbolic, but so, yes, to your point, like, I double down on that and I say, yeah, that it does kinda feel like a little bit shitty that Monta's asking this much and they're doing so little with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what scares me again is when we came into this again a couple years ago, different, blah blah blah. We know, we understand, but when we came into this a couple years ago, the smaller Monta watches, like you're talking about, the Triumph, the Atlas, of which these were older, variations of it, but definitely the Noble, they were all under $2,000, and
Yeah.
that's a good place to be for a micro brand, because we were, I mean, still, I was seeing the praises at that price point. Monta has a great quality watch. I mean, it feels great, it's comfortable to wear. But there comes a point where, okay, you're stepping out of that zone of value, and then I mean, I can't sit here and say, if I had to pick between a GMT and I had that price range, that I would be going with a Noble over a Longines. I mean, for, yeah, the feel might be the same, but we know the movement is better in the Longines than it is in the Noble. I mean, we know Nobles, and Brett's yours did too, would kind of lose time after a little while. It definitely was a little bit off compared to different,
The power reserve's really
Longines
short.
and things. Yeah, very short. So, I mean, it scares me if we're at the 2400 mark with this type of watch. What are we going to be at if that Blue Ocean King comes out? Because again, I'm saying yes, I want a new Blue Ocean King, but I'm expecting to be at the
It
$2,400 mark for the Ocean King. Not I'm not
right.
paying 3,200 for the Ocean King. I mean the Ocean King, the Sky Quest. I love the Opium Dial Sky Quest. I mean, beautiful watch, and I know I've talked to Brett and I think on this podcast as
Did
well
you just say
about
opium
you know
dial?
what opium. What is it again? Sorry. Did I say
You
opium?
said opium dial. What's what's,
Uh,
are you, what's the word that you're thinking of? Is it like the white?
yeah, the
No,
white. What is it called? Why am I
dude, I'm
blanking on
blanking on
this
it
right now?
too.
Shoot.
My
Hey,
wife's
we're
tag
all natural today.
yeah,
not the
my
opium.
wife's tag is,
Opalin,
yes, yes,
opalin.
Opalin silver.
Oberlin, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, some people might have the opium dial if you know what I mean. But anyway, so I mean, those watches I like at the price point of 2,400 new, or you can buy it used for in the 18s or so. But if we're
Yeah,
talking 2 years down the road, at what point are they going to hit the ceiling of pricing these things? And because if they keep going up and Longines and some of these other watches don't go up with them, it's all fine if everybody goes up 5%.
right.
You see Longines go up 5%, and so these guys do. But if you don't see that and they're at the same price point, unless there just becomes a renaissance of Monta marketing,
Yeah.
then it's gonna be hard to justify that.
Yeah, that's I'm glad that you brought that up because that was, actually the part of the point that I left off a minute ago and saying that, maybe Monta watches cost a little bit more per watch to produce than like a Longines because they're so much bigger. But my point that I wanted to finish up with there was just that yes, that exactly. If the Monta prices are going to raise significantly more and significantly more quickly than the likes of a Tissot and a Longines, and I mean, because you're starting to also get up into like some very low end Tudor and Omega options. So when you start to creep up
Oh
that
yeah, definitely.
high, and to your point, the offering is just not on par, like, I start to kinda look at it like I'm just paying a premium for the right and the luxury to own one of your watches. And and
Yeah,
and unfortunately, like, they make some awesome watches, like, I think everyone would agree that they are a very premium micro brand. Like, I
yeah.
mean, compared to even big major brands, they blow people out of the water in certain categories, like their bracelet, for
Oh
example.
yeah,
But just because you have an amazing bracelet, I mean, like, are we just never going to get an iteration on it? Is there no like, would it not just be simply possible for you to do some polished center links with that and to give us
yeah,
like a true variety, So it is unfortunate
yeah.
because the watches are awesome, and even though we just spent the better part of 15 or 20 minutes like kind of dogging on some of their
We still do like the
yeah,
guys. Yeah, we
because
just we
it's
expect a lot from
exactly,
them.
because it's just their
Yeah,
decisions.
yeah,
Like the things that they make are still awesome, but whether they make, I mean, even look, even if there was a blue dial Ocean King, again, to your point, I agree. Is it worth north of $2,600? It's going to be
mhm.
hard for me personally to justify it. Obviously, they can do it, but I mean, they didn't sell out of those things, right? So like
They don't sell
they
out of
don't,
many of
yeah.
their watches, which, you're wondering
And
why. I mean, the ones they sold out were obviously the baby blue, but, I mean,
yeah,
there's
whenever
there's a lot of
yeah,
everything.
so that's
Yeah.
kind of my entire point.
Yeah, guys, and if you're new here, just don't forget to give us a follow on our social medias. We're pretty active on Instagram and TikTok, so it is at Strap and Link, all spelled out. And if wherever you are listening for your podcast, just don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on there. It helps get this podcast out to a lot of other people that might not know we're around and watch lovers like us. And we made this because there wasn't a podcast about watch brands and different things. So if you have any friends that are interested in this, don't forget to share us.
Let's move on here, and yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to give Monta a little bit of a break there.
Yeah. Yeah, we like the guys. We'll keep an eye out on that Blue Ocean King, and when they do that, if they keep that Blue Ocean King the $2,400 mark, I will be happily surprised. Put it that way. But kind of moving on, like Brett was saying, we were having a conversation about just aftermarket watches, and I mean we see it all over our social media. The watch value of something aftermarket 2 years ago versus today, pretty much everything's not maybe cut in half, but cut in a third. And I think we were
Tanked.
surprised. We saw her Brett actually saw it and texted me about it. Breitling Super Ocean Heritage, the blue with both straps, the rubber and the metal strap, which is of course a watch that I've always had on my list of something I've wanted. That I mean, the thing was selling with all of that in the twos,
It
wasn't it?
was
I mean, that new
it
is
was
a six
29.
thousand dollar watch.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
sold for $2,900.
yeah.
And I didn't see it until, a couple days later. I check my WhatsApp broadcast every, probably every other day. So I saw it, and immediately I texted my contact and asked if it was still available, because I was like,
That was something I would have done too.
yeah, I
I would have
mean,
probably pulled the trigger on
yeah,
that, yeah.
and not to anyone's surprise, he wrote back and said that the watch sold almost immediately. But it is like a good little
Yeah.
anecdote for oh, excuse me. Gonna be coughing up a storm here. David is getting into some producing, so David will
This one yeah,
yeah,
that'll be
he'll have
fun. We'll see if it's edited out or if it
yeah,
stays in.
exactly. He's now got the option, and he's like now the voice of God. He gets to figure and determine what
You
stays in and what gets kicked out.
you guys will be seeing a lot more of behind the scenes, which is a luxury for you guys. Congratulations, you get to see the raw edits of
Oh
the
yeah.
stuff.
Um
But yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean we always talk about this. That bullshit that the ads and all were spewing at us a few years ago, that we called out a couple years ago. Hey, the watch market is, we're just going up. It's like the housing market, that's
yeah.
just going up. It ain't coming back down. And I mean, it was just bullcrap to get you in that, to buy their thing. It's a sales tactic. My favorite thing is you now go into ads everywhere, and you have the certified pre-owned rolexes that are just abnormously overpriced. I mean, they're just crazy. I mean, 16, $18,000 freaking black submariner. I mean, it's just crazy how what they're still charging. And but I went into an AD a couple years ago, in kind of the height of everything, before I even had my black sub, and I was actually asking about that. I already knew the answer. Well, you don't want to you don't want to buy used. Are you crazy? And that they were like, yeah, I mean, well, let me ask you this question, David. Would you go on a used car lot and buy a more expensive car than a new one? And I said, well, yeah, if I couldn't get the new one.
Right.
And and they're like, oh, I just that just would never be me. And it's funny, the smugness of that a year and a half, 2 years ago, to now, oh, for the love of God, let us burn you on these used. You want to buy a more expensive Rolex Submariner? We got them right here for you, baby. We're marking it up
Yeah.
50%. And it's just funny how that tone changes on a lot of these ads. But
Well,
I mean, the market's just ridiculous. Yeah.
that's a really interesting point. I wonder who is setting those prices. Do you know if that's the Rolex CPO program,
Yeah.
or if that's like up to the dealers? Because if that's a dealer thing, like the Mayors that we go to a lot, they've got a small selection, and every time that we go in there, like you'll usually hear, if you stay in there for longer than just 5 minutes, you'll almost always hear at least one person walk in and ask about Rolex availability. And we pretty much know everyone
Hmm.
that works in there, and so we will also hear their response of kind of how it works. And then we also,
Yeah.
if you stay about 10 minutes, you'll see them get guided over to the CPO section. And
Yeah.
I don't ever see anyone buying any fucking Rolexes, is what is my point.
I've
They got
never I've never seen
they've got
somebody
they've
pull the
got
trigger on one of
Explorers, they
those.
got subs, I mean, I've seen, a great selection in there. And to be fair, the selection does change. So maybe someone's buying them, but at the rate that you would see all these people walk in and ask about the availability of a new, Rolex, whatever, You
Yeah.
might maybe 10% of that traffic converts to actually buying what they've actually got in store. So
You've just gotta either be, "I don't give a shit, and I'm spending the money doesn't matter to me," or you just have to be unfortunately
ignorant.
ignorant onto good markets, outside guys that sell Rolexes, to go into a AD and buy a certified pre-owned. Because
Well,
I mean, we both have aftermarket guys that sell us things that we want, and I mean, mine comes with a warranty. They have a 5-year warranty. I mean, it's half the price. I'm getting a black sub for maybe $1,000 over what you could pay for it new, if not less nowadays. I mean, versus going in there and paying 6-7 grand over what it would be new. If you bought it straight from them, brand new. So I mean, you just have to be really unfortunate in your knowledge
yeah.
of where you could get some good deals to actually go in there and buy from an AD or certified pre-owned, because you can get a very good watch with a warranty, for thousands of dollars less than what it is with those
Yeah.
guys.
I think also another really common scenario is like the first time Rolex buyer or like the only time
Hmm.
Rolex buyer, that in other words
Yeah.
they've come into some money, or they've got actually really the money is super irrelevant. They've got enough money, and for whatever reason they're
Hmm.
just compelled to go and to buy their first Rolex ever, but you know that this person probably won't have a collection of these things because maybe they don't have enough money to really build out a collection, but they've got enough to buy like a staple piece or a reward for themselves. But again,
Yeah.
you're not gonna build a lot of, or you're not gonna make a lot of individual buyers, I think, into a watch collector. So I think that's also a super popular scenario, is the person that is walking around, to your point, they probably don't even know of sites like Chrono 24, or if they do know, they probably just don't trust them, but they've got enough
Hmm.
money. Oh, a $16,000 black sub, like you just said, to your point. I mean, you could probably get one of those from the dealer if you just wait a month or two. But even if you Yeah, but even if you
Nowadays.
couldn't, you can go
Yeah.
get one for literally half that price from someone like my buddy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Max. So so yeah, I think that buyer, I think that's a pretty common scenario. Someone walks in, "Oh, do you have a Rolex?" "No, we don't, but we've got pre-owned. Would you like me to show you that?" "Oh, you've got a
Yeah.
gold day date. How much is that?" "Oh, it's
Yeah.
45K." "Oh, I okay, yeah, I could throw that on the card." And
Yeah.
then it's almost just like that impulse fuck you money decision, and they may not
Yeah.
ever own, like Pat McAfee is a guy that you and I both really like. He wears the same exact
Yeah.
watch every time he's on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that he's only got one, but he only wears one. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
there
Exactly.
could be a lot of people with disposable income like that. But nonetheless, the CPO thing is, I think, is unfortunate that everyone got hyped that there'd be availability, but the fact
Yeah.
is
But we
it's
also
so high.
we sh you should have seen that coming. Oh my god, if, you're talking about Rolex, they're not gonna give you a good deal on that shit. Because the only reason they made that is because they were pissed about how much money aftermarket people were making. So they wanted to come in and make all that money as well, which again, if this was 2021, then 16,000 for a certified pre-owned sub wouldn't be a bad deal. But this isn't 2021
Right.
anymore. This is, 2024, and you can get the same year sub for probably 12, 13 now. So it's just they came in, and they came in just a little too late. And but at some point it'll ebb and flow like always, and it'll be back there, and at least they have the concept in place where that would become very valuable again. But as at the moment, I can imagine they're probably losing a fair amount of
Yeah.
money.
Well, and the watch market as a whole right now is, to your point earlier, it's nothing like it was in 20 or 21, or even in, the early parts of 22. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really brutal, man.
I mean, life's just more
Yeah.
expensive and a lot of uneasiness right
Yeah.
now. So obviously, watches and cars and things like that are these are the first things to go down. It's always such a volatile market. But the last thing people need when they're worried about making bill payments is a watch.
Right.
So yeah, but it'll come back like it always does. And like we always say, the best time, if you have the money, obviously never go in debt to get a freaking watch, but this is the best time to get a watch
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I've told many stories on this podcast about, family members and friends that have bought a Hulk for $5,000 in 2018.
Yep.
And it's just sitting there now. This is the time to make an investment if you have the money sitting around. Probably be in the next year or two would be a fairly good
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I'm not saying it would get back to how it was pre-COVID, but it's definitely better than it was, like we said, 2
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, if you work in like sales or something like that, you're someone that saves up a lot. And, if you've ever been thinking
Mhm.
about it and you did just happen to stumble across this podcast, yeah, that's definitely like fair knowledge that, yeah, just like a lot of other, luxury goods and things like that, just the demand, has dropped. And so for someone like me that's been trying to like consolidate pieces for a little bit, it's tough because the demand is just not there for it. For buyers though, it's
Mhm.
it's pretty nice. Like that person that got
Yeah.
that Super Ocean Heritage, $2,900 for like a full set, and
God,
it's like
shit
three
pisses
four
me
year old
off.
watch. Yeah. So, but we've talked
Yeah.
about also. Well, I've told David, rather, not that we've talked about it, but I've told you before. I've seen Explorers under retail. I've seen
Mhm.
Submariners right at retail. I've seen, but you know what? Like surprisingly, a watch that I've been gunning for like the better part of a year at this point, and sadly, I'm realizing that I probably let my priorities shift a little bit and could have had this watch already, but is the Omega Speedmaster. And surprisingly,
Yeah.
the newer model, the newer generation, 21s, 22s, and newer, the value is like really holding up for those. So you see a lot of
Yeah.
older models, you can get a full set, a relatively nice, you know, pre-owned model for 3,500 bucks, maybe 4,500.
Mhm.
But yeah, the new, especially the Sapphire
Yeah.
models, yeah, six to $7,000 pre-owned, 8,000
Yeah,
retail.
that's
So,
crazy.
some things are like a little bit, holding, but yeah, many things are not. So, and then to bring it all the way back to Monta, like we talked about, it's like you paying asking 2,500 or 3 grand for a Monta, you know?
Yeah. Well, the thing Monta has going for him, and I'll continue, is there's so little of them on the
Yeah,
market that it's hard to get a used one. And if you get a used one, it's not being sold by Chrono or a reputable aftermarket dealer like Cape Town Jewelers and people like that. It's sold by a Jim that lives in Iowa.
right.
So you don't have that warm and fuzzy feeling really. You can't call Matt, so I can't call Jonathan and be like, "Hey, man, I want this," and he could go find a
Yeah.
Mata,
For as much
opium
as we
style.
talk about Monta, we should be getting
Yeah.
like free watches.
Well, we get a loaner from now and again. I don't know if we'll get a loaner after this
No, I mean,
episode.
look, this is fair feedback, okay? Like this is real
Oh yeah.
feedback, okay? Like it doesn't it's nothing
Mhm.
against the guys at Monta, but like the entire watch community feels this way. All of these enthusiasts feel this way, and for them to be a
Yeah.
micro brand, not that we're like some humongous watch podcast, but like we are in the world of watch podcasts, like,
Mhm.
probably a freaking
Oh,
decent size one. Like one of the
yeah.
bigger ones. There's not like too many of us out there. So I
Yeah.
mean, again, it's like they're freaking micro brand for as much as we talk about them and as much attention that we give them, and as much as everyone agrees that they're a premium micro brand, that they do make some awesome watches. Um, you know,
Yep.
I don't know, just
Just need a
yeah, just
little love.
show
We
us
get
some
love
love.
from enough people, but we don't get love from Justin and Mike much anymore. We did for a while there, but
I love you,
we
Justin.
need to get them back on. Yeah, we need to get them back on the
I love you,
podcast. Is what we
Justin.
need to do, and let's talk about this. I mean, because they've released about four different watches since I think the last time we've
I
we've had
know.
them on. So yeah, get an Atlas.
I've not been in a buying mood because of the consolidation effort, like I said, but just not finding the right price and the right buyer, hence the market. But they have
Yeah.
made some stuff lately that I really liked. I mean, yeah, that blue dial Atlas, I really,
Hmm.
really, really liked that actually. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't really we me and you both have kind of been on a downhill slide of the watches. I haven't sold any of mine, but I only have four, good ones that I really talk about on here. But it's we're both kind of very stagnant right now. I guess life's not, I don't want to say getting in the way, but life's taking priority over a few of these watches. But I definitely, maybe in the next year or so, there might be a surprise pop up because it's just. Well, I mean, we talk about this as kind of a running joke. We just change what the hell we want so
Yeah.
much that is just hard to, I mean, my right now my leader is the Cartier Santos. For some reason that watch, just a dressy watch like that is something that's really kind of grabbing my attention at the moment. Um, but yeah, I don't know what you're thinking. I know you said the Speedy. Now,
Yeah.
when you're going towards the Speedy, do you are you thinking about consolidating a watch for it? Or are you thinking just buying it straight up, or what's going through your mind at the
Yeah, I am
moment?
because like you said, like we change what we want and what we're interested in so much, and that's especially true for me. And I'm starting to just realize that I would rather have fewer watches in my collection that really, really mean something to me, or like that I had to, I had to chase or I had to earn or wait to save up for or something like that. Because I know when you and I first kind of got into watches really big, you know, like you mentioned, we were just in different places in our lives. And so we were able
Yeah.
to be a little bit more free with, how we were spending our money. But we bought a
Whew.
lot of watches in a short amount of time. And so again, like that's like really where the consolidation effort comes from. I mean, I had a Monta Noble, and it's not that I don't like the Monta Noble. It's not like I don't like the Rolex Air King that I own, but I'm starting to also kind of get to the point where, when I open the watch box up, there's only like two or like three watches like that I really, really want to wear on any given day. And so a little bit of
Yeah.
me feels like guilty for just having,
I was gonna say that bothers you a lot more than it bothers
yeah,
me
like,
because I never wear my Tudor, but I still am like, yeah, I'm keeping. I would never get rid of
yeah,
it for
like
now, but that does
I just like
bother you,
look at
yeah.
it and I'm like, I could, I could pocket a little bit of money and get a watch that I've wanted for, for years, instead of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
obviously the mistake that I alluded to earlier was just saying yes to the offer to get the Rolex Air King whenever the call came across because I really wasn't expecting it. In hindsight, that money, could have gone towards a brand new Speedmaster. And so the obvious answer, is like, yeah, let's do that. But, you get that call and you think, oh, well, it's a Rolex. And so I should take advantage of this.
mhm,
And I do like the Air King because I do. But
yeah,
if you force me to make this, yeah,
pick,
exactly. If you force me to
yeah,
pick for that one spot in my watch box, it would go to the Speedmaster. And so that's what just makes me think like maybe I don't need all of these watches for just the sake of having all of these watches. The ones that really mean something to me, I've never thought and I've never, tried to get rid of them. But the ones that I've just kind of like acquired like on a whim, I
yeah, those always seem to be
yeah,
the
because I
first to
find that
go,
like
yeah,
6 months in to buy or to owning them, I'm just like I'm not connected to it. Like I don't really,
yeah,
like you said, I changed my mind and I'm like, oh, I gotta, this other black dial watch, but now I want another blue dial watch. So let's get rid of the Air King, which was
yeah,
only on my radar for a couple of months, but I got the call for it. If it's a
yeah.
Speedmaster and
It is a good looking
I
freaking
mean,
watch
yeah,
though,
it
god,
it definitely
yeah.
is. It definitely is.
But I agree with you. If you take away the names of just saying it's a Rolex, I mean, I agree. I think the Speedmaster is still a better looking watch. The only downfall of the Speedmaster to me is, of course, the mechanical movement where it's not automatic. You have to self wind it. But you take that away, I think the Speedy's a perfect watch. And so I understand your thought process
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's definitely just like a growing, bit of mentality that I mean,
Hmm.
like I hate to even utter this on this podcast, but I mean it's kind of true in the sense that, I just don't find myself geeking out over watches nearly as much these days, and I think it's just a byproduct of just not having as much time in my day, like being
Yeah.
a parent now,
Yeah.
but I really like whenever I don't have one of those watches that really have some kind of a meaning to me, I just don't appreciate them really at all. Like the Grand Seiko dive watch that I have, I really love the way that that watch looks, and so like when I put it on,
Yeah.
like I enjoy wearing it for a few hours. but then I'm just like bored of it, and I kind of look at it like I don't want you. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it that's kind. I mean, that's kind of me with the Tudor too, because I mean, I wear my black sub and my Yachtmaster every
yeah,
day almost. You know, I'm wearing one of those too. The Grand Seiko very rarely do I wear now, and the Tudor, the only time that watch gets worn is when I'm home. I'll normally come home from the road, take off the Rolex, and then I'll think, okay, I don't want to wear that again, and I don't want to wear the other Rolex. Okay, we're going to the store. Let me just put on the Tudor, and that's the only time I wear it. Is just to run the store and kind of just like not don't want to say it's a job, but just to say I wore it, I wear it. And the Grand Seiko is probably the one that's falling through the crack the most for me because when I'm dressed up, I just wear that rhodium dial Yachtmaster with the baby blue hand. Is just such a good looking watch, even dressed
yeah,
up. That the Grand Seiko, the Skyflake is it's kind of falling through the cracks, just being worn. Obviously, I don't think I would get rid of it because again, Tudor and the Grand Seiko, I would not get the price I would want to get rid of it. It wouldn't be worth it to me. Um, because I wouldn't be able to buy another watch I actually wanted with the $2,000-3,000 I could probably get
yeah,
for them. So, and that's my biggest thing is I know, Brett, you sell these watches a lot more and you kind of go through that struggle, but even watching you go through that struggle really makes me think, that's not worth the headache of having to meet some random guy
right,
out there, and I'll just keep it for $2,000 that I know the watch I would love to have seven. So having that too. If I'm going to buy a $7,000 watch or something, I'm just going to buy it. I'm not going to have to sell this to get that, and because then I'd have to sell multiple. And do I want to go down two watches to get one?
yeah.
That's what always goes through my head.
Would you ever? I mean, if this scenario ever presented itself to you, um, would you ever consider trading watches with me, like the Air King for the Blue Tudor? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would
Okay.
definitely.
I
I
mean,
would
obviously
consider
not
that.
like a
Yeah,
one to one, just the
yeah, obviously,
but
yeah.
yeah, just from like a like a like I would get more wear out of this, like
Mm-hmm.
perspective.
Because the problem is you have a lot
Black.
of well, again, don't want to say problem, but
Yeah.
yeah, you have a lot of black watches.
That's what I considered today. It was like, what if I just sold the Air King and got the Speedy?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
Because you could probably sell it, make a little money on it, and get the Air King, for less than you would sell the. I mean, you sell the Air King and make a little money, so you would sell the Air King for more than you would pay for the
right,
Speedy, I
right.
would
Yeah.
imagine.
It's always when like when you're moving and flipping them and everything, and obviously the market is changing too, and so the market's just not doing great. So that's like another thing that you have to contend with whenever you do think about this.
Yeah.
And so there's like all these reasons that make me just think that like I want to be super careful about the types of trades and the types of watches that I start to acquire now because I
Hmm.
know that this process excuse me, that this process just has so many headaches to
Process.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said before, seeing you go through it makes me say, it's not worth it. I like my
Yeah.
watches enough, so that's why I don't really go through them. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I'm still going through the stages of the wedding coming up and all. And if life was different, then it would be a different conversation. But we both have priorities, and I know as soon as I get through this hurdle, or not hurdle, that sounds bad, this step of my life, then the next one comes. And so you can always just say what if. But unless you're just a single man doing your own thing and you can just blow whatever you want on watches, it's normally you're gonna have these kind of things you have to weigh out. Okay, do I want to do this for the wife, or get her a
Oh
bag, or
yeah.
get her something, or because again, you buy 10 watches, she's gonna expect at least a Louis Vuitton bag coming at
Oh
some
yeah.
point. And so those are things we always have to weigh. But yeah, it's an interesting market, and that's why
It's a
again
tough market.
we say they're investments in Rolexes are, but unless you're buying a Rolex or a Patek or AP or something like that, you need to buy the watch for just the love of it, because I'd say 70% of the time you ain't going to sell it on making a
Yeah.
profit. And we always say the same lie to the woman that, hey,
Investment
this is an
piece.
investment piece. Yeah, but in your heart you need to not actually buy a Tudor thinking you're going to sell it 3 years later for $1,000 profit, because it's not going to happen. Same thing with Grand Seiko, same thing with Longines, same thing with any of these watches. Unless you buy you get lucky and get a GMT Rolex, or a brand new sub, something like that, you're not going to lose value. Because even my sub, I mean, I have an '06 Black Submariner. I could not have even turned that around and paid over a brand new one. I paid less than what a new one would have cost me back in that time. So you just have to understand that a lot of the times you're not going to make the money that you see all these people online making.
All right. Well, I think with that we are going to wrap up the episode today. So it's been a fun time. Got to talk a little bit of microbrand stuff with Monta. Got to talk a little bit of watch market stuff, just in general, and just kind of how crazy and hectic that things are. David and I have talked a little bit about how we kind of want to do some of these episodes going forward. So we want to make sure that we're sticking with some, some relevant current events and things like that. So I know that the Monta thing is current event. However, we also know that they are, a micro brand still. So we will be doing our part to bring you guys some relevant topics and information and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it was a fun episode. It was a fun episode. And
Yeah.
Justin, Michael, we love you guys. We're just being
Yeah,
honest.
don't be
We're just
mad.
being honest.
Don't be mad.
We're just giving you valuable feedback. Okay.
Yep. Hey, we'll talk you up on the next episode.
Yeah.
Listen then.
Send us a blue ocean king, and then we'll we'll erase
Well,
everything.
we'll lie to these people.
We'll take
Whatever you tell
all the
us to
files
say,
down.
we will
We'll
say.
take all the files down. Send us a blue ocean king.
Yep. Yep. You can put questions in there. We'll do a rig press conference, whatever you need.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again so much for checking us out and hanging with us. We'll catch you guys next month in August with a new episode. Goodbye.